War has a way of turning ordinary men into heroes. Some of them fade into history. A few, they become legends. And then there's Joseph Beyrle. His story isn't just about bravery, it's about defying death itself. Captured, beaten, declared dead, not once, but twice. He escaped a Nazi concentration camp only to find himself fighting for the Soviet Red Army. And when the war was finally over and he made it back home, he walked into a church, not for a memorial service, but for his own wedding. The same church where, just months before, his family had gathered to mourn him. Because Joseph Beyrle wasn't just another soldier. He was the man who refused to die. In 1941, Joseph Beyrle had his future set, a full basketball scholarship to Notre Dame. Then Pearl Harbor happened. Beyrle didn't hesitate. He rejected the scholarship and enlisted in the 101st Airborne Division, the elite paratroopers of the U.S. Army. This guy wasn't just good. He was so skilled at parachuting, other soldiers paid him to take their jumps. Literally, guys would pay him to impersonate them and jump out of planes for them. That's how he got the nickname Jumpin' Joe. And soon he'd be jumping into danger. First mission, a golden job. By 1941, Joseph Beyrle's future was set. A full basketball scholarship to Notre Dame, one of the most prestigious schools in the country. A stable path, a bright future. Then Pearl Harbor happened, and in an instant, everything changed. The United States was going to war. And Beyrle? He didn't hesitate. Instead of playing college ball, he rejected the scholarship and enlisted in the 101st Airborne Division, one of the most elite and ruthless paratrooper units in the U.S. Army. But Beyrle wasn't just another recruit. This guy had a talent. While most paratroopers struggled to land without breaking bones or getting tangled in their chutes, Beyrle made it look easy. So easy that soldiers started paying him to take their jumps for them. That's right. He literally impersonated them, taking their place in training jumps so they wouldn't have to. And that's how he earned his nickname, Jumpin' Joe. But soon, he wouldn't just be jumping for practice. He'd be jumping straight into danger. June 6, 1944. The night sky over Normandy was alive with chaos. Hundreds of transport planes roared overhead, packed with paratroopers from the 101st Airborne Division. Their mission? Drop behind German lines, take key positions, pave the way for the invasion. But as soon as they hit the coast, everything went wrong. Flak fire lit up the sky like fireworks. Anti-aircraft guns pounded the planes, sending them spinning into fireballs. Some paratroopers were hit before they even jumped. Others were scattered miles away from their drop zones. Beyrle was one of them. He leapt from the plane, and before he could even adjust, he slammed into a church roof. Tiles cracked beneath him as he slid down hard before hitting the ground with a thud. But he wasn't out of danger. German snipers were already watching. Then he realized where he had landed, a cemetery. Bullets zipped past, pinging off gravestones. He had two options: run and get shot, play dead. Not the kind of life choices they trained for in boot camp. So Beyrle went completely still. It worked. The snipers moved on, assuming he was already one of the cemetery's permanent residents. the sabotage mission. That night, Beyrle regrouped with a handful of other scattered paratroopers. They didn't know where the rest of their unit was. They had no backup, but they still had a job to do. Their target? A German power station nearby. They moved fast, avoiding patrols, slipping through the shadows. When they reached the station, they planted explosives. Then boom! The explosion ripped through the compound, plunging the area into darkness. But there was no time to celebrate. The Germans would be looking for whoever did this. So at dawn, Beyrle sprinted toward a bridge. If he and his group could blow it up, they'd cut off a key German supply route. But just as they reached the bridge, the air exploded with machine gun fire. A hidden German machine gun nest had spotted them. Bullets tore through the dirt around him. Soldiers dove for cover, but there was nowhere to hide. Beyrle felt something slam into him. His body hit the ground. Captured. His war wasn't over. It was just getting started. The Nazis didn't just capture Joseph Beyrle, they had a plan. They stripped him of his dog tags and handed them to a German soldier. If that soldier could blend in with the Americans, he might sabotage from the inside. Meanwhile, Beyrle was marched across Europe, a labor camp in Normandy, a warehouse near Paris, a brutal transit camp in Germany. With each stop, his chances of survival got thinner. But eventually, he was officially registered as a prisoner of war. And back in the U.S., a telegram arrived at his family's home. We regret to inform you that your son, Joseph Beyrle, has died in battle. A funeral was held. A priest gave his last rites. Except there was one small problem. Beyrle wasn't dead, not even close, and he was about to prove it in the most insane way possible. One night, Beyrle made his move. He and a few other prisoners bribed the guards with cigarettes, German soldiers' only true weakness. Then, they hopped onto a train, hoping it would lead them to safety. Only one issue. The train was headed straight for Berlin. Wrong direction. Very, very wrong direction. By the time they realized, it was too late. They were recaptured, beaten, tortured. And then came the worst news. They weren't being sent back to the camp. At dawn, a firing squad would be waiting. This was it. Beyrle had one last shot. That night, he and two other prisoners made a desperate escape attempt. They stole a cart. They ran for miles. Then, the cart tipped over. His two allies didn't make it. Beyrle, barely alive, completely alone, deep in enemy territory. And that's when he saw it, rolling over the horizon, a Soviet tank. At this point, most people in Beyrle's position would think, I should hide, lay low, maybe not get killed today. Not Joseph Beyrle. Instead, he walked right up to a Soviet tank column, torn uniform, starving, barely standing. And what does he do? He knocks on the tank's armor. The Soviet soldiers inside look down, probably expecting a surrendering German, and instead, they see this half-dead American soldier looking up at them. Then Beyrle, without hesitation, says, "Hey, can I join you guys?" For a second, the Soviets just stared. Then they laughed. Because, honestly, what else do you do when a POW just casually applies for the Red Army? But then they handed him a rifle. And just like that, Joseph Beyrle switched sides. He didn't run. He didn't escape home. He jumped into another war. Fighting with the Red Army, Beyrle led raids on German positions, blowing up Nazi supply lines. And in one attack, he freed a group of American POWs. Imagine the confusion. These guys have been suffering for months, maybe years. Then one day, a random American in a Soviet uniform kicks down the door and says, "Hey fellas, I got you." But even legends have limits. The final twist. During a Soviet assault, a German airstrike hit Beyrle's unit. He was seriously wounded and taken to a Soviet hospital. And that's where things took another insane turn, because the man leading the Red Army, General Georgy Zhukov himself, walked in. Now, Zhukov wasn't just some general. He was the guy smashing the Nazis back to Berlin. He looked at Beyrle, this wounded German-looking American wearing a Soviet uniform, and just went, "Who the hell are you?" Beyrle, probably exhausted beyond belief, explained everything. He was an American paratrooper, captured, tortured, escaped, got lost, joined the Red Army, and now he was here. Zhukov just stared. Then he made a call. A few days later, Beyrle was transferred to the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Problem? According to official records, Joseph Beyrle was still dead. This led to one of the most awkward conversations in history. "Sir, we have an American soldier here." "Impossible. He died." "No, he's standing right here." It wasn't until they checked his fingerprints that they realized, oh, he's alive. Beyrle was finally sent home, and the first thing he did... When Joseph Beyrle returned home, there was no hero's welcome, no parades. Why? Because, according to official records, he was still dead. His family had already mourned him. His name had been engraved on a headstone, and yet, here he was, alive. So, what did he do next? He got married, not just anywhere, but in the exact same church where his funeral had taken place. And the priest conducting the ceremony? The same man who had presided over his memorial service. Imagine being a guest at that wedding. 1 minute, you're grieving the loss of a fallen soldier. The next, you're watching him walk down the aisle like it's just another Saturday. If there was ever a wedding that needed a double take, this was it. But Beyrole's story didn't end there. His unbelievable journey earned him some of the highest military honors, the Purple Heart, for wounds suffered in battle, the World War II Victory Medal, for his service in the war, the Soviet Order of the Red Banner, one of the USSR's highest awards for bravery. To this day, he remains the only American soldier to have fought for both the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And when he finally passed away in 2004, there was no confusion this time. He was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, a fitting tribute to a man who had defied the odds at every turn. Because legends don't just survive war, they rewrite history. Joseph Beyrle didn't just cheat death, he laughed in its face twice. His story sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, but it was very, very real. So here's the question. If his life was a film, what would the title be? Drop your best movie title in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Because trust me, we've got more insane true stories coming your way.